So another common thing we see is archive tables. And what this basically means is you take a copy of your table metadata, you create a new table. Let's say it's orders, and you might create an orders underscore archive or underscore history or whatever naming convention works well in your environment. And then what you can do, you can decide in my live table, I want X amount of data. I want a year. I want a month in my currently active data. This is hot data. This is data we're either writing to or updating or reading a lot. This is the date range that I want in my main table. You can then take any data that falls outside of that range and copy it to an archive table and then remove it from the original table. That way, you still have the data there and available. But if somebody wants to query the older data, they will have to query it a slightly different way. Whether that be a union between your live table and your new table, a union at all, because we want to dedupe. Or whether you create a view that sits over that does the union. So they could either query for current orders, or if it hasn't got the data they need, they write the query that joins to the table, or they hit the view instead. What this allows is that most of your queries, like your live queries, you're running your active data is all in the one table, and it's much easier to maintain because you will have to do maintenance on these. Any maintenance you're currently doing around indexes, around statistics maintenance, anything like that, you will have to do on both tables, but likely your system already automatically picks them up. But the theory is the other table, the archive table, won't be being modified often, so it won't require the maintenance. And when you do the maintenance on your live table, you're only doing a month's or a year's worth of data, not all of it. So that goes back to improving the performance of your maintenance jobs. And again, these tables can be made on a different file group, so they can be put on cheaper storage. And they can be different. The metadata wants to be the same as your primary table, purely for the case of when people union them together. It'll be much simpler if they've got the exact same structure. But let's say your live table needs a lot of supporting indexes. That increases your data volume. The amount of space it takes on disk. So indexes are basically a copy of your data. Your archive table, you might only want, for example, a one clustered index on there because you query it so infrequently, and that will reduce your overall database size. And then going back to something like backups and check DBs, those will just go faster. One thing that you would need to consider, generally the way we see this implemented is people have a process that runs nightly or weekly or monthly. And what that does is it finds any data in your main table that's past X amount of days ago. Let's say it's a month. You might have a process that runs once per night that goes anything older than a month, I will copy to the archive table and delete from the main table. And that's fine. That's absolutely not a problem. But you would want a process built into there to check that, you haven't got any missing data. And that's quite easy if you're using something like a surrogate key, like an identity field, to check if there's any IDs missing, if there's not supposed to be. Or check that you haven't got duplicate data, because once somebody unions those tables together and you're returning rows twice, that's generally not appreciated by the business. So yeah, you can absolutely do archive tables, but again, it's not a no-code solution. It's a no-code solution for most queries because they only care about current data. But for people that want historical data, for example, reporting teams, they might have to change their code to looking at a view you've created, which does the union for you. And consider if you put it on slower storage, that query will run slower. Might not be a problem for reporting because generally big reporting queries run overnight anyway, but it's a consideration to think about. You don't upset the BI team too much.